Welcome to the deep dive. You know that feeling, right? That intense frustration. You're listening. You're sure you heard the answer for the IELTS test. You start writing it down, and then boom, the speaker changes their mind or uses some totally different word, and you've missed it. Maybe you missed that high score by just 1 point.
Yeah, that almost feeling. It's painful.
Exactly. So today, our mission is to end that agony. We're taking your sources on the IELTS listening test, and we're going to really uncover the specific secrets that top scorers use. We want to get you past almost catching the answer to actually locking it in every single time. No more basic tips. We're going straight for the high-impact stuff.
Okay, and I think we need to start by maybe reframing what this test is really looking for. Most people think it's just, can I understand spoken English?
Yeah.
But it's subtler than that. It's really an exercise in, well, controlled attention.
Controlled attention, okay.
Yeah, it's not just hearing words. It's about anticipating meaning, spotting the deliberate distractions they throw in, and catching those little contextual clues. If you don't get those patterns, the test is basically designed to make you stumble.
Okay, right. So let's unpack that. First, we need to understand the structure, the terrain of the test. You really have to appreciate how the difficulty ramps up. It's intentional. Our sources clearly lay out 4 distinct sections. And yeah, the challenge definitely increases as you go. Section 1, you start with the easiest stuff. Usually a conversation, 2 people maybe booking a hotel or arranging something practical.
Sure, yeah.
Functional language.
Then section 2 is a monologue, but still everyday topics, like a tourist guide talking about a museum or maybe explaining how the local bus system works. Still practical.
Right, but then the mood shifts, quite dramatically, actually. Sections 3 and 4, that's where it becomes explicitly academic. Section 3 is often a discussion, maybe a few students talking to a tutor about an assignment.
Lots of complex vocabulary there, multiple viewpoints maybe. Exactly. And then section 4 just hits you with a full-on academic lecture, like university level, delivered pretty fast, often on a specialized topic you might not know much about.
And what's really crucial, it's not just the speed and complexity increasing, right? It's also the accents. The sources really hammer this point. You have to be ready for different accents.
Oh, absolutely. British, Australian, American, they mix it up deliberately.
Why is that so important?
Well, the test is checking if you're ready for, an international university or workplace. If you've only ever listened to, say, American English, your brain has this little hiccup when it hears a British or Australian pronunciation.
Like how schedule is set differently.
Precisely. And that little bit of extra processing, that friction, it uses up mental energy you really need for the harder parts later on.
Okay, that makes sense. So that brings us to what you called a foundational secret for high scorers.
Yeah.
Stop trying to listen to every single word.
Yes, absolutely critical.
If you try to basically transcribe the whole thing in your head, you're just going to fall behind. You have to be more surgical, focusing only on keywords and the context you need.
Exactly. Most of the words are just noise, fillers. Some are even there specifically to distract you, options that sound similar perhaps.
So this is where active listening comes in versus just passive hearing.
That's the core difference. Passive is just letting it wash over you, hoping the answer pops out. Active listening means you're preparing before the audio even starts. You're setting yourself up to pounce on the answer.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we prepare? The sources mentioned 2 key tactics. First one is predicting the answer format.
Yes, vital. Before the recording begins, look at the question. Right away, you need to figure out, what kind of answer am I listening for? Is it a number, a quantity?
Or a name, a place, like a proper noun.
Or maybe a descriptive word, an adjective. If you know it has to be a number, your brain can kind of filter out all the names and places being mentioned.
Like mental triage. You narrow the focus.
Exactly. You're only paying attention to a fraction of what's being said. It saves so much mental effort.
And that leads into the second tactic, which is underlining keywords in the question itself.
Yeah, they work together. You identify the words in the question that will act like anchors. The words that will signal the answer is coming up in the audio.
So the example you gave, what time does the meeting start? You'd underline meeting and start.
Right. Then your brain ignores the speaker talking about what time they had breakfast or when lunch is or anything else. You only go on high alert when you hear meeting and start, or, crucially, synonyms for them.
Synonyms, right. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But this disciplined focus helps you ignore all that deliberate noise.
It's how you cut through the clutter.
And now there's a big psychological element here, too. Let's say you've done all this prep, the audio's playing, but you just miss an answer. Question 12, maybe? It just goes by too fast. What happens then?
Ah, the panic moment. That's where so many people fall down.
You freeze up, try to replay it in your head.
Exactly. You're mentally scrambling, trying to reconstruct the last few seconds to grab that missed answer for question 12. But meanwhile,
Yeah, it keeps
the
going.
audio keeps going, and the answers for 13, 14, maybe even 15 just fly right past you. You've turned one missed point into potentially 4 missed points.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the strategy, and it sounds harsh, but it's crucial. Skip it. If it's gone, it's gone.
Really, just let it go.
Immediately move your eyes, your focus, everything to the key words for the next question. You sacrifice that one point to save the others. It takes discipline, real mental toughness, but it's absolutely essential for a high score.
Okay, that's a hard one to practice, but vital.
Yeah.
Now, here's where, as you said, it gets really interesting. Let's dive into the specific tricks, the traps that examiners deliberately use.
Right. These are designed to catch people who are only listening superficially. If you spot the patterns, though, they're not traps anymore. They're almost predictable.
So trap number 1,
Mm-hmm.
you called it the master trap.
Paraphrasing, I really can't stress this enough. The words used in the question on the paper, they will almost never be repeated exactly the same way in the audio.
Never.
Oh, very, very rarely. The test is designed to check your vocabulary range, your ability to understand synonyms, different ways of saying the same thing.
So if the question says, the mandatory fee must be paid, you can't just listen for the word mandatory.
Exactly. Because the speaker in the audio is much more likely to say something like, right, the compulsory charge needs to be settled, or payment of the required fee is due.
And if your brain is stuck waiting for mandatory,
You miss it. You hear compulsory or required, but it doesn't click immediately because you're fixated on the exact word form, the question. You need to train your ear to hear the meaning, not just the letters. That slight delay, that's what they exploit.
wow, okay, that's a big one. Trap number 2, the sources called it changing answers midway. Sounds brutal.
It is, because it plays on our natural tendency to latch on to the first clear piece of information we hear.
Give us an example.
Okay, imagine they're talking about room costs. The speaker might say, yes, we initially decided that the rooms would cost $200 per night.
And someone rushing writes down $200 immediately.
Right. But then the speaker continues, however, due to a last-minute change in local taxes, we've actually revised that down to $185. That's the final price, effective immediately.
Ah, the classic bait and switch.
Precisely. The key here is patience. If you hear words like initially, however, but, although, actually, or, oh wait, on second thought, anything like that,
Red flag.
big red flag. That first piece of information is probably wrong. You have to wait for the final corrected information. In IELTS listening, if something is stated and then contradicted, the second statement, the correction, is always the right answer. Wait for it. Don't write too soon.
Got it. Wait for the confirmation.
Yeah.
Okay, and trap number 3. This one targets more granular detail, similar options.
Yes, particularly around pronunciation and things that sound alike. Numbers are the classic example, but it's more than that.
Like 13 and 30, where the stress changes.
That's the obvious one, yeah. T numbers stressed on the second syllable, tens numbers on the first. But it also applies to letters that sound similar, especially in quick speech or with background noise.
Like B and P or M and N.
Exactly. Or even S and F sometimes. If the answer requires you to spell a name or write down an acronym, it's surprisingly easy to mishear one letter.
So how do you guard against that?
Context is your best friend here. If the speaker mentions, say, a new safety procedure and then spells out an acronym SOP, you might mishear FOP. But does FOP make sense in the context of safety procedures? Probably not as much as SOP, standard operating procedure. You use the meaning to double-check what your ears think they heard.
Right, so it's listening comprehension, not just auditory perception. Always checking if it makes sense.
Always.
Okay, that's fantastic. So we've covered the test structure, the need for active listening, and these specific examiner traps. Let's shift now to practice. How do we practice smarter, not just, doing test after test?
Yeah, this is crucial. Smart practice starts after the test is done, with the post-test review.
Okay.
Most people finish a practice test, check the score, maybe glance at the answers they got wrong, and that's it. Huge mistake.
What should they be doing?
For every single mistake, you need to diagnose why you missed it. Was it vocabulary? Did I just not know that word?
Or was it one of the traps?
Exactly. Did I fall for the paraphrasing? Did I write down the first number I heard and miss the correction? Did I mishear 15 for 50? You have to pinpoint the reason for the error.
Because then you know what to focus on next time.
Precisely. It turns mindless repetition into targeted training. Okay, I keep falling for the paraphrase trap. I need to work on my synonyms, that kind of thing.
Right. Now, I wanted to ask about a specific technique the sources mention for dealing with accents and improving general listening fluency. Shadowing. What exactly is that?
Shadowing. Yeah, it's powerful. It's not just repeating after someone. You listen to a short piece of audio, could be news, a lecture clip, anything with a native speaker, and you try to speak along at the same time as them.
Simultaneously. Wow, that sounds hard.
It is at first, but you're trying to match their pace, their rhythm, their intonation, even their accent, as closely as possible in real time.
What's the benefit of doing that?
You're training your mouth and your ear to work together. Your articulatory muscles learn the patterns of native speech. This makes it much easier to recognize those subtle phonetic differences and different accent patterns when you hear them under pressure in the test. It tunes your brain to process those sounds more efficiently.
Okay, interesting. Like active muscle memory for listening.
Kind of, yeah. And building on that idea of varied input, once you're comfortable with the basic test format, don't just use IELTS sample tests for practice.
Broaden the sources.
Definitely. You need real-life audio to prepare for the complexity, especially of sections 3 and 4. Listen to things like BBC News or ABC Radio from Australia. Find university lectures online, podcasts on academic topics.
Because the language is more natural, maybe faster, less scripted.
Exactly. It exposes you to the kind of variability in speed, vocabulary, and unscripted speech that the harder sections of the test will throw at you. Makes the actual test feel less intimidating.
Okay. Great advice. And one final practice point from the sources. Simulating exam conditions. This sounds crucial for managing nerves.
Absolutely vital. You have to practice under pressure. The recommendation is maybe once a week, do a full timed mock test. That means section 1 through 4, the full 30 minutes of listening.
No pausing.
No pausing, no rewinding, no breaks, just like the real thing.
Why is that so important?
You're training your focus endurance, your ability to maintain concentration for that whole period. If you always practice with pauses, the real test environment, that continuous flow of information, will feel like a shock. You need to build that mental stamina.
Train your endurance as much as your ear. Got it. Okay, let's quickly recap the core secrets we've really unpacked today for everyone listening. First, understand and respect the test structure. Those 4 sections get progressively harder, demanding more focus.
Second, active listening is key. Predict the answer type before you listen and zero in on those keywords in the question.
Third, be aware of the examiner's traps. Watch out for paraphrasing, they won't use the same words. And be patient, don't fall for those mid-sentence answer changes.
And fourth, practice smarter. Use shadowing for accent familiarity, rigorously analyze every mistake you make in practice tests, and simulate the real exam pressure regularly.
It seems like the big takeaway is that it's less about perfect English and more about focus.
That's the absolute heart of it. The highest scorers don't necessarily have the best hearing or the biggest vocabulary. They have the best concentration. The IELTS listening test fundamentally isn't testing your ears as much as it's testing your ability to maintain focus under pressure and ignore deliberate distractions.
Hearing versus focusing. That's a really powerful distinction. Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to take away from this deep dive. If mastering this test really boils down to predicting key information, identifying the speaker's true intention by looking past surface words and actively ignoring irrelevant noise, how could applying those exact same strategies change the way you learn or tackle any complex subject or task in your life, way beyond just passing a test? Think about that focus methodology. See what other doors it might open for you.